Good morning, cooperative education students. Welcome back for another great week of learning. I hope you've learned a lot so far about yourself and you've built your resume and your cover letter. Today, we're sort of focusing more on the workplace now that you're gearing up to get your co-op hours collected. Topic 5 is what we're working on today and potentially tomorrow. And then we're going to go to topic 6, hopefully on Wednesday and Thursday. We're just making our way through this course content, which is awesome. My name is Katie Birch. I am the teacher for this course. If you need to reach me, my email is listed here, and you can also text me or even call me if you would like some specific help, and my number is listed here in my slide for you as well. Okay, what are we covering today? Let's dive in and take a look. So, in topic 5, we talk about 3 main topics, and they are really important because they impact every single workplace, whether you're working as a student in school or whether you're working in an office or a Ministry of Natural Resources. It doesn't matter. You will always face issues of privacy, confidentiality, and work ethics. So to start off, we're going to talk about privacy and confidentiality. What do those mean? Then we're going to talk about ethics. There's an assignment attached to ethics where you're going to go through some case studies and make a decision based on your work ethic. Then we're going to talk about the role that technology plays in the workplace and how that impacts confidentiality and privacy and ethics at work. And if we have time, we will get to decision making. If not today, we'll do it tomorrow. So let's jump right in here. We're going to go to Google Classroom, where all of our coursework can be found. You'll also find all recordings for past classes in Google Classroom, and I'll very briefly show you how to get to those. In the stream, I usually put announcements for the week, which I'll be doing today. Then to classwork is where you'll find all of your coursework, and if it's showing up there, it needs to be done. So you should all be finishing up your workplace hazards poster. That's due at the end of this week. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, you should get going on that. You should have also done a WMIS training video that would have given you a certificate that you can add to your portfolio. And into topic 5, privacy, confidentiality, and ethics at work. Okay, what should you know? We're going to open up the PDF here. What should you know about privacy and confidentiality? So this lady here, her name is Samar, and she's enjoying her co-op placement at an interior design company. So far, she met with most of the staff and accompanied a few designers on appointments. However, she recently moved into a new office in a huge loft, and Samar must also help the company settle in. One day, she's asked by an overworked assistant to move boxes of files. While moving them around to the new office, Samar accidentally sees some confidential files containing personal information about a few employees. She reads that one designer's salary is higher than another's, even though they both do the same job. Perhaps Samar could impress some of her coworkers with her insider scoop. What do you think? So think about this. If you were in Samar's shoes, would you choose to discuss this situation with your coworkers? Why or why not? Thinking about the topic of privacy and confidentiality. And if Samar were to disclose this information she reads about employees, what could happen? So as we're working through, we're going to come back to those questions after we explore privacy and confidentiality and see if you sort of have an idea of how we would respond to those questions. So all workplaces to do with privacy and confidentiality, they have information that needs to be kept confidential. Banks and doctor's office keep information about clients, and it's private. This could include information about sicknesses or financial problems. Employees and customers in all of these situations expect that their information will be protected. So that's essentially what confidentiality is: keeping information private and not sharing with anyone where there's not been given permission to do so. So, for the same reason that your banking information isn't shared out to the public, same with your medical information. So, every single workplace has information that needs to be kept private. Privacy is your ability to select information, what information will be given about you. In Ontario, we have the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, which protects your right to privacy. Okay, let's find out what the Ontario law states around the freedom of information and personal privacy. So we're going to go through this 20-minute video where it goes over the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act that relates specifically to Ontario, but it really deals with all of Canadians. You can see this is a Manitoba video, but it definitely highlights similar things.
10 fair information principles that all businesses subject to the Act must follow. Let's look at a few highlights from each principle to give you a sense of what your business can do to fulfill its responsibilities. Keep in mind that this is just an overview of your responsibilities. The Privacy Guide for Businesses outlines each of the principles in more detail and can link you to other helpful resources. The first principle is accountability. Your business is responsible for the personal information under its control. In other words, it must be accountable. That means appointing someone to be responsible for PIPEDA compliance. For example, a chief privacy officer. Protecting all personal information, including any that gets transferred to a third party. And developing and implementing policies and practices to protect personal information. It's important to tell employees and customers who your designated privacy official is and how to contact them. In order to show your accountability, you should also make sure that all frontline employees are able to explain your company's privacy policies to customers. The next principle is identifying purposes. You have to be able to clearly explain to your customers what personal information you're collecting and why. And this needs to happen before or at the time of collection. That means reviewing all the personal information your business holds to make sure it's required for a specific purpose. It also means that when you request personal information from a customer, you explain your reasons for collecting it. If you're not sure how to define your purposes, think about what a reasonable person would consider appropriate under the circumstances. Keep the definition as clear and as narrow as possible, so it's easy to understand how the information will be used. Keep a record of all these identified purposes and the consents your business has obtained. The third fair information principle is consent. Businesses that wish to collect, use, or disclose personal information have to ask for and obtain permission. This gives your customers greater control over their personal information. You may have noticed that a lot of privacy policies and terms of use are long and full of legal jargon. Your business must provide information to customers in a clear, timely, user-friendly way. That will help to ensure that the consent your customers give is meaningful. Businesses need to clearly explain to customers what personal information is being collected, why they're asking for this personal information, who they're going to share it with, and any potential harms that may arise from collecting or sharing their information. Consent is a key element of PIPEDA. You can read more about it in the Privacy Guide for Businesses, as well as in the OPC's guidance on obtaining meaningful consent.
As long as a company provides customers with some kind of explanation about how personal information is being used, they've met consent requirements. Does that sound right? Or no, you don't think so? Definitely not. Not quite. Under PIPEDA, businesses must obtain meaningful consent for the collection, use, and disclosure of personal information. Consent is considered meaningful when individuals are provided with clear, timely information explaining how their personal data is being used. The purposes for collection must be ones a reasonable person would consider appropriate in the circumstances.
The fourth fair information principle is quite simple. Limit the personal information your business collects to only what is needed to fulfill a legitimate purpose. Always be honest with your customers about why you're collecting the information. It's against the law to mislead or deceive customers about the purpose. Remember, it's much safer to collect less information than too much. That reduces the risk of it being inappropriately accessed, used, or lost. The fifth principle is all about limiting how you use, disclose, and retain personal information. Only use personal information for the reasons you've told the customer. If you want to use or disclose the information for a new purpose, obtain fresh consent. And don't keep the information any longer than you need it. You can only keep personal information for as long as it fills its intended purpose. After that, you must destroy or erase the information. Information must be disposed of securely to prevent a privacy breach. That could mean securely shredding paper files or effectively deleting electronic records.
If a company gets a customer's consent to use their information for one purpose, they're allowed to use it for something else. Yes or no? The answer is no. A business cannot use the information collected for a different purpose unless they get clear, meaningful consent. What do you think? Should all employees have access to personal information a company holds? Yes, absolutely, or no, you don't think so? I'm going to say no. You don't need access to information you don't need. Absolutely not. Employees should only have access to the information they need as part of their job. Your business should take appropriate action when information is accessed without authorization.
The sixth fair information principle is accuracy. Make sure that the personal information your business holds is as accurate, complete, and up to date as necessary to fulfill the purpose you collected it for. Have policies to govern what types of information need to be updated. This will minimize the possibility of using incorrect information when making a decision about an individual or disclosing the information to a third party. Always ask yourself if any harm might come to your customer if you were to disclose wrong or outdated information. Safeguards is the seventh principle. Use appropriate security safeguards to protect personal information against loss, theft, unauthorized access, disclosure, copying, use, or modification. The more sensitive the personal information is, the stronger your security safeguards should be. That means putting in place physical measures like locked cabinets and alarm systems, organizational controls like security clearances and staff training, and technological tools like passwords or encryption. Test your technology for vulnerabilities. Make sure that any old systems or databases aren't vulnerable if you upgrade to newer technology. There are off-the-shelf solutions and security specialists that can help with this. It's also important to know your industry. Hackers will often try the same tricks against multiple businesses. The more aware you are, the better chance you have of avoiding the same pitfalls.
Your company must also keep records about when information is obtained or updated, and what steps are taken to ensure the information is up to date. This could involve reviewing your records or contacting your customers. What do you think? Once a company has set safeguards in place, it's fulfilled its responsibilities to protect personal information. Yes, exactly, or no, not quite? I would say no, not quite. Once security safeguards are in place, it's important to review them regularly to make sure they're up to date and that the known vulnerabilities have been addressed.
The eighth fair information principle is openness. Show customers you take their privacy seriously by letting them know that your business has established policies and practices for managing their personal information. And make sure these policies are understandable and readily available. Put up signs, post information on your website, and look for other ways to actively share this information. The ninth principle is individual access. Your customers generally have the right to see the personal information your business holds about them. They also have the right to challenge the accuracy and completeness of the information, and to have that information changed as appropriate. Be ready to respond to requests for access. When asked, let people know what personal information your business holds about them. Explain how that information is being used and who it's being shared with. And if a customer requests it, provide them with a copy of the information or allow them to view or review a recording of the information. You have to respond to requests as quickly as possible. 30 days is the standard response time limit. You also have to make sure you document any disputes and advise third parties where appropriate. Note that there are exceptions to the access principle. For example, a business may not need to provide access if doing so would reveal personal information about another person, or if the information is protected by solicitor-client privilege. The Privacy Guide for Businesses provides further guidance, including other exceptions to the access principle.
What do you think? When a company provides information to customers about its access policies and procedures, what should they include?
The 10th and final principle is challenging compliance. People have the right to challenge your business's compliance with the 10 fair information principles. They also have the right to effective recourse if their personal information was mishandled. Let customers know that if they have any questions or concerns about how you handle their personal information, they can contact your business's designated privacy official. Develop simple and accessible complaint procedures and investigate all complaints your business receives. If your investigation uncovers problems, take appropriate measures to address your personal information handling practices.
Okay, we're going to stop the video there. That kind of gave you a pretty good overview of the things to think about when we discuss freedom of information and privacy. There's lots of things an employer needs to do to make sure that people's privacy and information is confidential. So think about, I know many of you are already in jobs, but when you get to your placement, ask your employer what needs to stay confidential. And because most of you are adult students, you don't need to get parent and guardian consent, but you do need to know that going into co-op or going into the workplace, you have signed a disclosure agreement that private information remains private. Most companies strive to protect personal information of employees, not just because they want to, but because they have to. The Freedom of Information and Privacy Act is law. and supports an individual's right to privacy. So think about it. Every student in Ontario has an Ontario student record, and it's governed by this Freedom of Information and Privacy Act. Who can see your Ontario student record? Would you be comfortable if the whole world could look at your Ontario student record? Why or why not? Just like it said in the video, only people who need that information should have access to that information. I wouldn't want everybody looking at my OSR. People don't need to know about my education assessments or courses I've taken. That's something that maybe a guidance counselor should have access to. Or when I'm helping you go through the credits, make sure you get all the credits you need. That's something I would have access to, but certainly you wouldn't want just anyone off the street grabbing your Ontario student record and having access to it. Okay, so we're going to move over to Google Classroom because there's a little assignment that I'd like you to do, and I've posted it for you in Classroom. So I'll show you where it is. It's under classwork, and we're on topic 5. Okay. And I have put in there, oops, I'll refresh the page here. I'm not sure why it's not showing. There we go. Okay, so there is, you'll see that I've also included the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act if you want to refer to that. But one of the first things that we're going to talk about is we're going to look at this assignment. We're just going to cover one more topic around ethics, and then we're going to do this assignment LM 5.1 together today, where we're going to identify if something is privacy and confidentiality, if it's ethics related, or if it's other. So the last thing we need to cover, which I forgot to talk about, was ethics. So we talked about what privacy was, we talked about confidentiality. Now let's talk ethics. So ethics principles govern the right and wrong behavior. You know, a lot of people say we're born with a solid set of ethics. It comes from our family, it comes from our experiences. They're not the same as confidentiality and privacy. Can't talk. Not the same as confidentiality and privacy. However, they work together really well. Okay, because we want to make sure our workplace is fair and respectful. As soon as Samar saw the information about that employee, she knew that gossiping would go against her ethics. Ethics guide us in doing the right thing, just as it's wrong to gossip about people in your daily life or peek at their email or bank statements. It's definitely wrong to do it at work. So we're going to take a look at the code of conduct. So let's think about McDonald's. Everybody loves to go to McDonald's. McDonald's restaurant has a code of conduct, okay, that includes following points, okay? They include privacy and confidentiality. Employees may not use the company computers or office supplies for personal use, okay? They may not work for another company that's in competition with McDonald's. Privileged company information must be respected. An employee may not harass or intimidate anyone. An employee must practice safety at all times. So together, we're going to decide, do each of these fall under ethics in general, or privacy and confidentiality, or other if it describes another type of concern? So let's go through them together. So employees may not use companies' computers or office supplies for their personal use. Would you say that is privacy and confidentiality? Is it ethics or other? I would say it's ethics, because you still could do it and people might not know that you've done it, but ethically, it's not the right thing to do. All right, employees may not work for another company that's in competition with McDonald's. Is that privacy and confidentiality? Is that ethics, or is it other? That's a tough one, because I really feel like that could come under privacy and confidentiality, because if you're working for another competitor, you could share their recipe secrets, and it is ethics. You know, you could still do it and people just might not know. Okay. Next one, privileged company information must be respected. That definitely comes up, privacy and confidentiality. Employee may not harass or intimidate anyone. I would say that's workplace safety. So that would be other. An employee must practice safety at all times, and I would consider that other as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into that assignment in Google Classroom, and you're going to go through and decide where each of these fall with regards to the McDonald's Code of Conduct. And all you have to do is type in a check mark or an X under the one you think it falls under. And then you're going to go down and list 3 rules you have to follow, either at home or at work or both. Okay, 3 in each. Which letter in each rule does it have to do with? Ethics, privacy, and confidentiality, or other. So, for example, at home, what rules do we have at home? I'll go with work. So one of the ones, we have an OSR room where we have student OSRs, and one of the rules are the OSRs stay in one office. They are not to be removed from this office. Okay, and that maintains privacy and confidentiality for the student. So I would say that that would be a privacy and confidentiality issue. Okay, another rule that we have at work is there's another one where do your dishes. Okay, there's a big sign right above the sink that says do your dishes. And I would say that does not involve privacy and confidentiality unless I took a picture of someone's dishes, them eating off a plate and sending it across the workplace telling people who made the dirty dishes, then that's a privacy and confidentiality issue. But for now, it's an ethical issue. Okay, keeping your workplace clean has to do with maintaining a healthy work environment, which is related to your ethics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, how much time do we have here? Oh, 30 minutes. I'm going to give you a few. So that's one of your assignments today. I'm not going to give you time in class to do this because I'd like to give this to you as work outside of class. So you can go ahead and submit that. And then you're going to go and answer these questions. In what way is it most common for employees to behave dishonestly in a job, and why? What do you think? There's no right or wrong answer. Just tell me what you think, but tell me why you think that. Okay, list the types of information you think should be kept confidential in the co-op placement you're going to be working at. And if you already have a job, just list things that should be kept confidential in your job. For example, in my job, student OSRs should definitely be kept confidential. Okay, only people who need access should have access to that information. So list the types of information you think should be kept confidential. And what are the implications of disclosing, which means what are the implications of giving out, I'm going to put that in there, confidential information. What do you think the implication should be? And I guess another word for implications could be consequences. So go ahead, and that's your assignment for that section of the work, but we're going to just sort of keep going along so you can work at your own pace when you're ready. Okay, we're going to talk about one more thing with ethics and with privacy and confidentiality. So technology plays a pretty major role in many organizations, especially because so much information is easily accessed with technology. So depending on the type of placement that you have or whatever you're working for your co-op hour gathering, you may be using information technology at work. IT is another word for it. There's some specific issues around privacy and confidentiality and ethics to be aware of when it comes to technology. Okay, so at work, you should only visit websites you are directly related to the company and business. Do not use the internet to browse websites you visit at home. Okay, do not send or receive personal emails at work. That's another one. Don't share or post photos and videos or tweet about your placement. Do not use company email to do anything but conduct business, and do not discuss your personal life. If you accidentally see information about another employee in an email or on a database, do not repeat that information. Company business, for example, decisions about future products or services may be private. This usually is to keep competitors from knowing what companies are up to. Always be careful about how much information you reveal about the day-to-day activities at your placement and at work, just in general, in texts or emails. So your next task is to go to Google Classroom, and you're going to answer this question. How could misusing technology have a negative? Why won't it let me look at it? How could misusing technology have a negative impact on your business or organization that you're going to be working at? Okay. And I'm going to set this due date to next Sunday. Awesome. Okay, so that's going to be another assignment for you today, is around the use of technology. When you're on the job, your character matters as much as it does every single other place. Okay? Brush up on these challenges and think about how you would be perceived at work. Responsibility. Responsibility means that people depend on you and want to know they can count on your participation. It means being committed and getting the work done even if you don't feel like it because you made a responsibility to help the team. Respect. Respect involves showing consideration and appreciation for people, their property, and your environment. It involves treating other people the way you would like to be treated and honoring other people's needs, wants, differences, beliefs, and values. At work, you can show respect by listening openly and asking questions courteously. You can demonstrate respect for diversity by being willing to accept other people's differences. Honesty and integrity. Honesty isn't just about being truthful, fair, and genuine with other people. It also means being truthful with yourself. In most cases, it's better to admit your mistakes than to cover them up. Employers value employees whom they feel they can trust. So your next task is identify someone famous and do a little bit of research on his or her behavior with regard to work. You're going to write a 1-paragraph response indicating when and how he or she showed responsibility, respect, honesty, and integrity on the job. Include information on how this involved working with others. So you are going to go to that assignment, and I think I didn't put it in the right spot. I'm just going to put it underneath the right topic here. We are on topic 5. So your task is to do a research project on somebody that you think has made a good impact on, why is that not showing it? Oh, there it is. A good impact on the world, your community, maybe. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up this assignment, okay? And it just looks just like this. It's got the instructions written on the top. And you're going to identify someone famous and research their behavior with regards to work. The neat thing about Google is you can actually research right within Google Docs. So for example, I'm going to pick somebody, where's research? Oh, here we go. Explore. Okay, we can go to Explore. So you go to Format. Oops. Tools, and then you go to Explore. And what that does is you can search for that person right within your Google Docs, so you don't have to divert. So I'm going to think of somebody famous, and I'm going to think of, let's do Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela ethics. Okay, then you can go take a look, and we can even look up, we can do a Google search even, Nelson work. Nelson Mandela working for freedom. Okay. So Mandela fought against apartheid, a system of white supremacy in South Africa. Okay, so let's take that information. So my famous person is Nelson Mandela. And you might even want to copy, put in a picture. And if you search right within Google, if you search right in here, any picture that you put from a Google search, an image search, is copyright protected. So you're good. So there's my Nelson Mandela, and then I can say what he did. Okay. He spoke up against apartheid. And if obviously I would like you to word it in your own words. White supremacy. He was jailed for 27 years in South Africa. Okay. I mean, this is somebody pretty famous. He refused to give up or give in to hate. He was fighting against apartheid, but he was also fighting for something, a better world, which is freedom, justice, and dignity. So even before his release, Mandela began negotiating with the government to end apartheid. So while he was still in jail, Mandela imprisoned, Nelson began negotiating with the government to end apartheid, which was white supremacy. A very important topic. All right, let's clear this formatting. There we go. Okay, so how did he show responsibility, respect, or honesty? So after he went on to become the first democratically elected president. So after being jailed and fighting apartheid, he also went on to become the first democratically elected president. So what I would do is I would look for character traits of Nelson Mandela. 11 leadership qualities of Nelson Mandela. There we go. There we go. He was a man of peace. He was humble. He showed grit. There we go. He's a man of peace. He had powerful presence. He showed the world what forgiveness looked like. He was positive. He was visionary. Okay, so I identified someone. I researched his behavior with regard to work, and I indicated how he showed responsibility, respect, honesty, and integrity on the job. Okay? And those were all qualities. And what I would do is if you take information from a website, I'd actually like you to put it underneath and let me know where you got it from. Even just putting the link would be fine. Okay, done. When you're finished, you're just going to submit it. And this is worth a percentage for you. So I'm just going to clear that out of there so it doesn't end up in the middle of your research project. And that's the task for your research project. So you have... that's your task for today. I think, what are we at now? 40 minutes. I think that's plenty of time for class. You're going to use the rest of this class time and at least an hour to work on those assignments. You're going to do the 5-1, personal and business ethics. You're going to answer the question about misusing technology, and you're going to work on your research project. So those are your 3 tasks for the end of this class. If you have any questions as we go along, go ahead and send me an email. But otherwise, good luck, and we'll see you in class on Tuesday. Have a great day.